Hey everyone, I want to take a moment to say Happy New Year to you. Thank you for your support. I really do appreciate it. And also, if you're out there celebrating tonight and you've had a little bit to drink, don't drive. Call Uber, ride with a friend, something else. All that being said, let's begin the story. I feel I should explain our living situation. The property that we're currently living on belonged to an old friend of Carl's. What happened to him, I'll get into in a later post, but he managed to make a decent setup out here. It's running off of its own power sources, both hydroelectric and solar. It also has its own private internet server, which is good for me. Otherwise, I wouldn't feel comfortable uploading these pictures. The only downside is that the nearest store is like 2 hours away, and we only visit when we've disguised ourselves. I know that sounds paranoid as hell, but better safe than sorry. Anyway, we weren't in a good situation at the trailer park, to put it lightly. You took my toys. The priest growled at us. It wasn't him talking, it was the creature controlling him. Its voice was extremely raspy. You can talk? Carl asked in a bewildered tone. When I have a human host, and now I have 3 more. Of course, we attempted fleeing. It caught us with ease. Using Zippy, it pinned Carl and Nick to the ground. Using the priest's body, it caught me by moving extremely fast and grabbing me by my throat. His and Zippy's mouths opened, indicating it was about to possess us as well. Life or death situations are funny things. In them, someone usually has 3 reactions: fight, flight, or freeze. I had a different one: negotiating. I don't know what it was, but in the midst of my fear and panic, I managed to come out with a spur-of-the-moment idea that I hoped would save us. As it was getting ready to strike, I managed to blurt out one word that made it pause. More. What? It loosened its grip so I could talk better. We can get you more. It eyed me closely, as if trying to find some hint of deception. Still, it did seem intrigued by what I had said. How exactly would you manage to do that? It had made Zippy stop with her open mouth just inches from Carl's and Nick's faces. Let's just say there are some people after us. We can get them to come here if you agree to let us go. It considered my words. Would you be able to get more people here than there were before? Possibly. How long will it take? Would 24 hours work? It won't. I'm really hungry right now. I can do 6 at the most. All right, but as a condition of our deal, I also want you to release the dog and the priest. The dog I can do. However, I need this man's body to infect others. I didn't want to leave him like that. I didn't really have much of a choice, though. Fine. Do we have a deal then? Yes. We shook hands on it, then it released us. My plan was pretty simple. It was for one of us to use their card at a nearby store, thereby enabling our location to be found by those pursuing us, then lead them to the park. Carl was the one who'd have the highest chance of succeeding, so he went while Nick and I stayed behind. When he vanished from view, we felt the hands of the priest on our shoulders. We couldn't move no matter how much we tried. We had a deal, I told it. Don't worry, I won't kill you. I just want to have a little fun, it replied, pressing its index fingers to our foreheads. Nothing happened at first. Then I felt a pressure building in my head. What occurred next is me experiencing the worst migraine I've ever had, and so did Nick. It felt as if my brain was going to pop out of my skull at any moment. Even though I wanted to scream, I couldn't. I couldn't even breathe. Something began forming in front of me. A weak light that soon grew blinding filled my vision. When it faded, I found myself to still be in the trailer park along with Nick, only it was nighttime again. "What in the hell is the point of this?" he asked, looking around. "Do you think it's here with us?" Before I could answer, someone came outside, an older-looking man. He didn't notice us, despite staring in our direction. I felt a growing realization that the closer he got to us... "Does this guy look familiar to you?" I asked Nick. "Yeah, now that you mention it, he kind of looks like the priest." "Do you think this is his dad?" "Could be, but why would it show us this?" The answer to that question is something we could have done without. In one hand, he held a luggage bag. He seemed to be heading towards the park's exit. Not knowing what else to do, we followed him. When he reached it, he knelt down, placing the bag on the ground and unzipping it. From it, he pulled out a jar of flour, some black candles, matches, a bag of what I hoped was animal blood, a knife, and a small statue of the creature. Putting two and two together, we realized we were about to see how it came to be in the trailer park. He poured out the flour, making sure to form it into a mound, then placed the statue on it. After that, he surrounded it with the candles. "Please work," he desperately murmured, lighting them. "What do you think pushed him to do this?" Nick asked, looking at me. "Jesus, huh? Look at his eyes." I didn't notice it before due to how dark it was. Thanks to the candlelight, though I could now see that there were dark circles under his eyes. From the looks of it, he hadn't slept in quite some time. What he did next was pouring the blood from the bag over the statue, causing it to drip onto the flour, coating it. Then he grabbed the knife, raising the blade of it to his palm. "I want to make the deal," he said, slicing his hand, allowing blood to flow from the wound and onto the statue. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pain in my hand, and so did Nick because he screamed as well. We checked our palms and didn't see any visible wounds. That did nothing to ease the dread we were now feeling from figuring out the torture in store for us. The candle fire began changing, going from orange to red. It wasn't just the color that changed, however, but also the form of the candles themselves. They turned to what can best be described as droplets of blood that, despite being liquid, stayed dancing on the wicks, as though they were still flames. "My God, it's working!" His shock quickly turned into regret at what transpired before him. The blood seemed to be seeping into the statue. Then a ripple started forming above it. What emerged from it was the head of a monster. "Make my son healthy again, and give us the money we need to move far away from here and live comfortably," the man said to it. "In exchange, you'll get everyone else here." In response, it grunted, nodding as it did. "So this is how it got here," I commented. "He threw everyone else under the bus for him." Desperation can bring out the worst in people, but why would he come back? Did he not tell him about this? Would you? I mean, not outright. I just tell him to stay away from this place. And that's what he tried to do. What we witnessed next was him and his son in the living room of another home. The farmer was seated in a chair and the latter on the floor in front of him. They seemed to be doing well for themselves, indicating that the deal had worked in their favor. Unfortunately, this wouldn't last. What did you want to tell me, Dad? There is a place you must never go to under any circumstances. Really? How come? What's it called? The name of it is... His eyes widened. Stabbing pain shot through our chest. Shit, Nick said. Don't tell me. The priest's dad fell over, clutching his chest. Mom, he screamed. Our vision faded, then we found ourselves back in the park. Everything seemed normal until once again the air started rippling. From it came what I'm going to refer to as black steam. It was so dark it even stood out against the starless night sky. The growl of the creature echoed over the park, causing several residents to exit their homes armed. Judging by their expressions, they didn't realize what they were up against. If they had, there's no way they would have even thought about going outside when it was around. It's not like hiding made much of a difference, though. This thing was like a cat in that it enjoyed hunting. The noises of small children crying came from one of the trailers. Although brief, it nonetheless attracted the monster's attention. All we could do is brace ourselves for what was about to happen to him. Excruciating doesn't even begin to describe how it felt. It ripped through the trailer as if it were paper, grabbing the screaming kids inside. When it started crunching on them, all we could do was scream. It did the same thing to all the other residents. We felt all of what the residents did, being eaten alive, getting their eyes gouged out, torn in half, and having their skulls crushed. In reality, it only lasted for a few hours. However, the pain made it feel like an eternity. Then it just ended. The priest had removed his fingers from our foreheads. We fell back, drenched in sweat from our mental ordeal. What the fuck was that? I asked, between heavy gasps. That felt pretty good. It said, ignoring my question. Your friend came through. We raised our heads, detecting the sounds of cars speeding toward the park. Carl came speeding through the entrance with what could be described as a mini army following behind him. Don't move. The priest and Zippy went behind a nearby trailer. Carl came running towards us and got tackled to the ground. We were pinned down as well. Put these three in one of the cars, the leading agent ordered. I'll let HQ know that we have them. Then, this is when it struck. The priest and Zippy leapt from atop a trailer, sinking their teeth into two agents. Having now possessed him, it proceeded to do the same thing to the others. Their efforts to try and stop it or escape were fruitless. Soon, they all became part of it. This turned out even better than I thought, the priest said. I was getting tired of my old toys anyway. We came through with our end of the deal, Carl told it, getting to his feet. Now you have to... Of course, a deal is a deal, after all. It made Zippy level her face with the priest. Both of their mouths opened unnaturally wide. From Zippy came part of it possessing her, going into the priest via projectile vomiting. Although disgusting, It strangely isn't the most repulsive thing I've ever seen. When it was over, she turned back to normal, then fell asleep on the spot. There. Now, take her and go. I didn't need to be told that twice. However, Carl got an idea. Before we go, could we get their wallets? He asked. Sure. It's not as if they'll have any use for them. After collecting them, we got the hell out of there. In total, there was a combined total of over $2,000 in their wallets. Once empty, we pulled into a secluded area, then put all of them in a pile, dousing it with gasoline and setting it ablaze. With that done, all we had to do now was find Mindy. Luckily, this didn't take long. We found her in front of the church, about to go in from the looks of it. Her mouth fell open when she noticed us with Zippy. I can't believe it. You actually got her back. Yep, Carl said. It wasn't easy, though. That's an understatement, I thought, remembering the agonizing pain me and Nick went through. How did you do it? It's a long story, and we really need to get going. We've already spent way more time here than we should have. Do you have the money? I understand, and yes, I do. She got the money from her car. We can't really say it was a pleasure, but thanks for doing business with us, Carl said to her. Likewise, I'm moving after this. Smart choice. We watched her drive off, pulling out of the church parking lot. Do you guys mind if I go take a leak? I asked. They replied that they didn't, and I went inside. When finished, I came back outside. Then we left as well. Well, that was all kinds of fucked up, Nick said. I agree with that more, I told him. I can still hear that thing's voice ringing in my ears. The only silver lining to all of this is that we've got more money now. Speaking of which, reaching into my pocket, I pulled out handfuls of cash and coin. Where did you get that? Carl asked me. Collection plate. Really? Nice. How much you got there? I haven't counted it yet, but probably several $100s at least. Words can't describe how happy we were to be done with that job and town. Merely thinking about what we went through back there makes me want to shudder. Well, that's going to be it for this post. I'm going to retire for the night. Stay safe, everyone.